keep finding ways that we're helping partners finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose.
Practices that are going to help improve your project management skills or your finances.
We're here to talk about setting long-term goals and then how to achieve them.
Increasing your quality, therefore becoming the best place in town to work. Welcome to Academy Live.
Welcome to Academy Live. We are grateful to have on Peter Kujawa today. Peter is an accomplished executive and attorney with experience leading businesses ranging from those early stage companies to maybe more mature companies, and from privately held companies to publicly traded companies. Prior to joining Service Leadership, a Connectwise Solution, Peter was president of LockNet, an E.O. Johnson company. While at LockNet, he led the turnaround of the business, including the acquisition by E.O. Johnson Business Technologies, one of the largest privately held office equipment dealers in North America. During his 11 years at LockNet, the company became an early adopter of managed cybersecurity services and had revenue growth from $2.2 million to $16.5 million and employee growth from 18 to 85 employees. It's a lot. Peter also served simultaneously as the corporate counsel of the parent company, E.O. Johnson Business Technologies. This will be a great discussion, and we're so glad that Peter will be joining us. But first, let's bring on Rex and Chris. Hey there.
Hey,
How's
Betsy.
everyone doing?
Doing fantastic.
I'm super excited to talk to Peter today. I've been kind of waiting for this one for a while.
It's going to be great. Before we get into that, though, we love to hear from our partners. We heard from Larry a few weeks ago from MSP CFO. We're going to hear from someone else today at the same company. Rex, I want you to pay attention because you get a very nice shout out. So let's take a look at that video.
We've always had a great relationship with C-level operations, who is now Pax8 Academy. And so when the partnership merged, we were able to take that history that the two CEOs had and bring it over here and continue to build on that relationship. And there's a great story behind it. It takes too long, but if anybody runs into Rex Frank or Larry Coburn, ask them the story about how C-level and MSP CFO really came to be, more so like how they helped each other. Because our reports become elevated when excellent coaches like them or partners in the channel talk about, here's what I would love MSP CFO to do. We take that feedback back to our development team, and if it's something that they can roll out immediately, they'll work on it. Otherwise, we'll put it on a roadmap. But that's how the product continues to get better. The community as a whole is way smarter than we will ever be.
That's pretty great to see Soleil up there. I guess she said to ask about it. Yeah, Larry, my commitment is running any service organization is that we got to hit best in class, right? We got to hit that the labor gross margins we're looking for. And the biggest number on the page is, your engineer labor cost. And, I just have this unwavering commitment that engineers need to produce revenue at a rate of 3 times their pay. And in order to do that, you have to be able to calculate the revenue for each engineer. And, as I've said on social media recently, MSP CFO is the only way that I've found to proportional to a flat fee revenue and multiple people touching that flat fee. It's the only one that can calculate a actual hard number of the revenue produced per engineer. And I used to have this crazy database that, the Connectwise people hated the fact that I was installing, databases and tables on the Connectwise servers. And it was totally the wrong way to do it. And Larry made that work for me with MSP CFO. he got me out of the software business, which made me a happy guy. So that's the brief story there.
I love that.
I just love that the more I'm around you, the more I hear, anytime I hear ask Rex about the story. It's going to be a good one. I just love that I'm learning more and more about you the more time we spend together.
And Soleil really brought up something that I really resonated with Pax8 Academy, is that how important it is that we get feedback from our partners and that we incorporate that feedback. And that's something that definitely in the instructor-led courses, whenever a course ends, I ask partners what else they want to learn about, what else we can get that feedback. So it's really important to us as well. Keep improving.
Great call out.
Well, for our next segment, what were you saying, Rex?
I just said right on.
Right on. Yeah, exactly. So for our next segment, we're going to be having a sales pitch with Keith Marciano. And I think you'll also get a kick out of the movie reference that Keith likes. You might know it, you might not, but just in case, I'll let you know. It's Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Take it away, Keith.
So the old ball game, the old game plan of selling is we ask some questions, we look around at their technology, and then there's a race to deliver the proposal and the quote. Hi, Mr. Foote. How you doing? I'm Keith Spicoli from California IT. How you doing? So, dude, tell me about your company. What's going on here? Hey, how many people you have here? Righteous. How many computers do you have? Sweet. Do you have any servers or are they in the cloud? Cloud's pretty cool. I don't know how they get the servers up there. That's pretty sweet though. That's the same as getting an at-bat and just swinging at every pitch. Yeah, you may get lucky and might hit one. Most likely you're probably not going to hit the right one, which will result in an out. More likely is you're going to strike out. What's a strikeout? Meaning you do all this work, you gather this information, you get all excited about an opportunity, you deliver the proposal, then it's ghost town. You don't hear back from the prospect. And then when they eventually do, it's usually bad news where they say, we've gone with another provider, or we're just going to stick with what we have. So, sounding the same, no differentiator, just becoming a commodity and leading to buyer confusion. So instead of having the conversations around the old stuff about yourself, maybe have conversations that build a know, like, and trust relationship with the buyer. So that way they can share their business problems. They'll open up to you about their business problems. They'll be more than happy to talk about you because they trust you. You have to have a true care on how their business operates, who they are, what really drives them. Be an entrepreneur and ask questions about that. Then share stories on how you've helped other people, how you've helped other businesses that were in the same boat that they're in, and then their experiences and the results that they've received as a result of doing business with you. Righteous.
My old man's a television repairman. He's got the ultimate set of tools. I can fix it. That's my favorite Spicoli quote. And I know Academy's bringing the right tools to fix the way our partners are trying to approach selling. Coming up soon here, we're going to be talking about our results selling framework. It's how we're going to be bringing sales enablement to the partner community. So I'm really excited about that coming up here in the next month or two. So anyway, good stuff. We're going to be talking about benchmarking and today, as well as some other cool stuff that service leadership is doing. So I would love to bring Peter Kujawa on the screen. Hey, Peter, how's it going?
Hey, Rex. Spicoli, you can't fix this. We could go back and forth with fast times lines all day.
We definitely could. Maybe the movie Airplane has more quoted lines than that one, but I don't know. Um, anyway, Peter, why don't you kind of, Bessie did a good job of introducing you, but I would love to hear your own words, sort of your own humble brag. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I have to apologize to Bessie. That long of an intro, having to read that whole thing, wow, that's she did a good job. Um, my background, I was introduced a few years ago when I was speaking at an event as having a background that's colorful and strange, which threw me for a little bit of a loop when you're just getting up and getting ready to present, having that be the intro. But it is actually. I graduated out of college in a recession in '92 and got into the cell phone industry when that was just starting to take off. Moved a couple of states away, and my first job, I sold cell phones in rural Northeast Kansas in a new market for a regional carrier called U.S. Cellular. And did that and was promoted after a year to a manager position and was there for about 6 years and decided to go back to law school. And I was running a major account team during the day and went to law school 4 nights a week from 5:30 at night to 9 at night and graduated in right after September 11th. So if you ever want to know when to pull your portfolio out of the market, do it when I'm about to graduate from a higher education institution. Um,
That's a sign things are going to crash. Huh?
right, right. So, um, but after law school, pretty quickly realized I liked running a business better than I liked being the low man on a totem pole at a law firm, and was able to kind of a long story, but I ended up as running a financial technology company that was relatively a startup at the time that was owned by an attorney. We were pretty heavily regulated. So I was CEO there for 7 years. We grew that thing like crazy. It became a very successful business. And in 2010, was brought on to take over an MSP that was a turnaround MSP in Western Wisconsin, in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So moved over there and took that over in 2010, and we were able to do a turnaround on it, ultimately be acquired, and we did 3 acquisitions in my time there, and was there for 11 years before coming to Service Leadership Connectwise back 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. So
Man,
long and twisting, winding road.
That's a really cool story. I think our kids don't really understand like that we had to put our time in at the bottom of the totem pole for a while before we got where we are. But I really wondered who they were going to get to replace Paul Dipple. I just talking for a couple of minutes about Paul. You and I just came back from IT Nation. I'm sure we'll hit on that too. And I remember going to those conferences and I sort of had a Paul Dipple rule is what I called it, right? Like if he was giving a session, it didn't matter who he was up against. That was the session I was going to go to. Over time, I had to change that rule because they started putting Paul and me up against each other, which kind of bummed me out because I always wanted to go to his sessions. But he always had so much great stuff to say, and he was always talking about the benchmark. And as the operator of C-level operations, my partners and I got together and we said, you know what, we really want to have that data about the clients that we're coaching. So I talked to Paul and I signed probably one of the scariest contracts I'd ever signed. If anybody's ever signed a contract with Paul, you'll know what I'm talking about. Some of the commitments in there were some big numbers but I made the commitment. We jumped in and we started benchmarking, and the numbers of clients that we had started to rise. And luckily, we were able to make the commitments. But Paul noticed something in the numbers. He noticed that our community. I think Service Leadership has 4 or 5 separate communities that are participating in the benchmark, and he noticed that our community. We were inheriting companies mostly at the lower maturity levels, but they were progressing way faster than the average benchmark participant. And Paul kind of recognized, what, I'm kind of using Paul's words here, but I can kind of multiply my impact on the community by working with C-level. And he actually became our business coach for many years, working with us and helping us create and grow C-level operations because we were helping the community, right? And he didn't even charge us for it. I don't know if you knew that, Peter, but he didn't even charge us for it. And we did. We grew. He was very instrumental in helping us create the value creation coaching offering, that we're delivering through Pax8 Academy, and helping so many partners, improve the valuation of their businesses. And I just was wondering, who the heck are they going to get? Because I know Paul's ready to retire, and we love him. Him and Brian did some amazing things, and all of a sudden, Peter and Rob got introduced to us, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. But I tell you what, Peter and Rob over the last couple of years have just completely knocked it out of the park. And I'm really excited for Peter to talk about some of the things he's been doing with service leadership. So I'm gonna shut up for a minute. And Peter, do you have any context on anything I just rambled?
I thought where you were going with that, Rex, where you were going to say, and then I found out, and wow, was I disappointed? What a letdown. No. It's been a whirlwind. It's hard to believe. I've been there just over 2 years. Rob, it'll be 2 years in a couple of months, and anytime you take over for somebody as monumental and impactful in the industry as Paul and Brian as well, you have to come in and just try to do your own thing. Paul was really instrumental in our success as well. Back in 2011, we had improved the bottom line of the company, but we were still struggling to get profitable. And we'd been at it a year. We were growing the business, and we weren't losing $1.5 million anymore. But we were still losing money. We had swung $1 million to the positive direction, but unfortunately, it still meant the company was losing money, and I just couldn't pull the right levers, and I couldn't get I couldn't get my people to buy in on some of the things that I felt in my gut that we needed to do. I'd run several businesses before. I couldn't believe how bad the margins were in this business. And after about 8 or 9 months, I was pretty convinced that the managed service industry, IT industry in general, existed for the purpose of giving techies folks a place to live and run a business and work with a few of their buddies, but that nobody actually could make money in this business, that it was a ridiculous business. And we started a benchmark. We joined a peer group back in 2011 and ended up staying in a peer group for 9 years and 10 years. And in fact, the company's still in a peer group with us. And it immediately started to impact our results. We right away saw where we were doing a few things right, but mostly we were doing a bunch of things wrong. Started to change our model, and it was a little over a year later that we were acquired. And I don't think we would have been acquired. We'd have been in the position of success that we were in if it wasn't for meeting Paul and getting introduced to service leadership and benchmarking, the impact that it made on us. So I've said it before multiple times. I'm a religious level believer in what we do for the companies that benchmark with us because it made that big of an impact on me. We were able to grow the company to 85 employees. It's bigger than that today. There's hundreds of employees that wouldn't have had jobs over the years and wouldn't have had the opportunities that they had over the years were it not for discovering service leadership back in 2011. So really, Paul made a huge impact on us, and Paul's still around. He's doing well, enjoying life on the ranch. Talk to him periodically and text with him. Was just texting with him yesterday and this morning actually. So he's doing great. So don't want to talk about him too past tense. He's retired and still around.
Yeah, he's definitely an impact on my life, and I know probably tens of thousands of other people's lives for sure. Positive impact, that is. Anyway, so when I first started looking at numbers on the benchmark, I've said this a couple times on the show, but I get those reports and I didn't even know whether I was holding them upside down or right side up, right? Like trying to understand what all this means, and it was just a matter of brute force looking at it every quarter, reviewing it with somebody who understood it, and trying to help me absorb like what kind of business decisions I can make to try to improve, my comparison of myself to the benchmark. Can you talk a little bit about, how you see other people going through a similar experience or process, kind of becoming familiar with the benchmarking and what it means for them?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming for sure when you first get started, and we do advise. We're happy to jump on a call and talk to a partner when they first get started, particularly when they're lining up their chart of accounts, and make sure that they're comfortable with how to do it. The first couple of quarters, generally 2 to 3 quarters, are an assimilation period. It takes a couple of quarters for most partners to really start to understand what they're seeing and where to focus. You can't, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And the same thing holds true with improving your results. So my advice to partners always is to pick 1 or 2 areas they really want to focus in on improvement, start to develop some KPIs around it, figure out those areas of improvement. Within Sleek, what we teach is 2 to 4 traits every 90 days. Don't try
I'm
to
not
boil the
sure
ocean.
I'm not sure the group knows what Sleek is.
Oh, yeah, good point. Sleek, so benchmarking tells you how you're doing, and Sleek tells you how to improve your results. So Sleek is an online coaching tool. It largely uses a methodology that Paul and Brian had used over the years for consulting. They'd go on site to a client and they would go through a series of questions about their business and different functional areas, and then they'd come back with a prioritized list of what things to improve to get the best results. And then they'd work with the client to make sure that they had the right information to drive those results home. Um, Sleek is a scalable version of that. So we have thousands of partners that are using Sleek all over the world. And you go in and answer roughly 150 questions about your business, covering 40 different traits in 5 areas of your business. And then it'll tell you what's your operational maturity level on a scale of 1 to 5. And operational maturity level, or OML, is a term that was trademarked by Service Leadership and Paul back about 8 or 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And we still own that term today. And OML is really how well are you executing as a business? How well run is the business? And so we can measure that and give updates as the business improves and they take action on these different action items. There's a mountain of white papers and videos. There's dozens of videos and other tools that are provided in there to help the partner actually drive that improvement in their business. So it's really an incredible tool, and it goes hand in glove. It's kind of like the analogy I like is when I go to the doctor every year for a physical, they do my blood work, and I meet with the doctor, and the doctor will say, your cholesterol's good, your other readings are in line. Here's the range. Here's where you are. Your weight's a little high. You need to drop 20, Peter, and I'll leave. But unless I change some behavior and do something different, a year from now, I go back and meet with them again, and it's, Peter, your cholesterol looks okay. Now you need to drop 25, maybe 30, right? And so unless you make some fundamental changes, and the same thing holds true in a MSP, unless they change how they're going to market or how they're running their back office, how they're delivering their services, how they're going about sales, all of these things are different behaviors that need to be changed for them to drive different results in their benchmarking. So the two really go hand in glove together.
I say the same thing, like when we start using the MSP CFO data, right? Like when we first put it in, we realized there's a lot of problems. Like really, I just use the tool to put the magnifying glass on where their data problems are so we can fix a process to get good data. And then we finally get good data and we start showing them, hey, you've got some issues here, you got some issues here, you got some issues here. And I call it, that's when the 5 stages of grief set in, right? Like the owners go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression. And it seems to take about 18 months for him to get to acceptance where they start making the real decisions, right? So that they can actually go tackle whatever the root cause is that's causing, the financial performance issues. Do you see
Yeah,
something similar?
well, it depends on the business. So, one of my former bosses had a saying that a hangman's noose sharpens the mind and leads to accelerated decision making. Um, I think the same, and definitely if you're running a business that is losing a lot of money, particularly if you're the owner, um, you need to move fast. So those businesses tend to be a lot hungrier for what changes they can make and a lot more willing to accept those and move more quickly. If you're running a business that's been pretty successful over the years, and by pretty successful, what we look at is when we benchmark every quarter, we're looking at who are the best in class companies, and we benchmark 10 different predominant business models. The two largest sample sets are infrastructure managed service providers, and the definition of that is 40% or more of your revenue is from infrastructure services, the largest bucket of it being managed services. Our second largest sample set are product centric companies, and those are the classic VAR. 60% or more of their revenue comes from product. But we also benchmark other infrastructure service providers like project shops, and there's still some break fix shops out there that are known as technical services. And then we benchmark some application development different business models as well. So within each of those, we want to know who's the best in class. And our definition for best in class is simple. We don't care. We're not looking at who's the best technologist or who has the best salespeople or any of that. We're looking at who are the 25% most profitable companies based on adjusted EBITDA. And we're going to take what those companies
EBITDA?
have done for
Question mark?
performance.
EBITDA?
Excuse me?
What's EBITDA?
Earnings. Yes, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Common method of measuring profitability, and our adjustment. When I say adjusted EBITDA, we adjust for owner compensation. About 80% of MSP owners underpay themselves in salary. They'll take distributions out of profit off their balance sheet, maybe if they're doing well enough, but if they don't pay themselves a market rate, it can artificially inflate their profitability. So we have a
Right.
methodology to adjust for that, so that we're really looking, when somebody benchmarks with us, they're really comparing apples to apples. And so we have companies that are small MSPs, 5, 6, 7 employees, and we have companies that are massive companies. I think our largest VAR is in the $1 billion range that we benchmark, and we
Wow.
have companies all in between. It's a worldwide sample. It's the largest in the industry. So the data that a partner gets, they're going to see in over 60 different KPIs. How am I doing compared to best in class? Am I spending the right amount on sales and marketing? Am I spending too much, too little? How is my general and administrative expense, my back office, my rent, those kind of things? Most importantly, how's my gross margin? How is my service gross margin? How's my cost of people compared to best in class? Am I charging enough for my products? All of that information is contained within the benchmarks.
I love that. I had an opportunity while we were at IT Nation. Larry and I talked about taking the benchmarking a little bit further into the PSA, right? So whether you're using Autotask or Connectwise, MSP CFO, because we did a talk about benchmarking tickets. I think we got a picture of what the room looked like, but we did a talk about benchmarking tickets. Like, hey, most, the average or the mean within this category of tickets, like troubleshooting VPNs or spam calls or setting up a new workstation, the mean is here, and you're taking this much longer. There's this much opportunity cost that you're kind of losing out on by not solving that and finding that granular data. And it's amazing when you start doing the math on, hey, if we can get our multiple of wages from a 2.2 to a 2.5 or closer to best in class at a 2.8, meaning if we have $100,000 in labor cost, we've got $280,000 in service revenue, right? That's that 2.8 multiple. If we can inch that up, that makes huge impacts on the EBITDA or the bottom line. Peter, when you look at the benchmark, what areas do you see the bottom quartile or more, most out of line with? Like, what's the metric that they're most out of line?
Well, there's a million ways to lose money in a business, and MSPs prove that axiom every day. We see all sorts of mistakes that they make, but I would say generally, when a new partner starts and they're struggling on profitability, or maybe they're doing okay and they just want to be best in class, the first thing I look at is what you just talked about, which is the service multiple of wages. And I presented at Connect multiple times last week to different audiences. And I think in about a third of those presentations, I showed that KPI and how you influence it. And the beauty of that KPI is there's two levers, right? You have lever number one, which is your service revenue, and lever number two, which is your service wages. So if you are spending too much on your people relative to your service revenue, if you can boost your service revenue, it's going to improve your service multiple of wages. If you can lower your service cost relative to your service revenue, so what you're spending on your service team, you can also improve it. For most partners, it's going to be a combination of those two things that they're going to use to move the needle. But at least it's a really understandable KPI. It's something that every partner that I've ever worked with can get their head around and understands the importance of decision making. Another reason I like that one so much is that owners and senior executives at MSPs are under constant pressure to add more bodies. I speak about this as a law of gravity, that a service manager will only ask for more people. They will never come to the owner and ask for less people. And at least I've never heard of that happening. And so how do you know if you're running an MSP? How do you know? How do you know you need more people? Well, if I'm running if I'm using a service multiple of wages number as a guide, and let's say my target for service multiple of wages is a 2.5, if I just added 250,000 of services revenue, I know I can afford another 100,000 of service wages and still be in line with a 2.5. And so it gives a very easy to understand KPI that you can get your service leaders to understand, you can get your service employees to understand, frankly, as they're pushing for more and more people. And it helps also helps educate why we need to do things differently. So you can't just, to fix that problem, you can, but I'd highly recommend just cutting a percentage of your service team. That's a bad way to fix it. What you really want to do is fix the processes within your organization so that you can staff your organization with a better ratio of level ones to level twos and threes, etc. And it's part of the reason that we encourage partners to not only look at any singular KPI when they're looking at performance KPIs when they're trying to improve their operation. So, for example, one of the things that I hear a lot of partners focus in on is first call resolution. That I want to make sure that my first call resolution is through the roof and I've got this number set. Well, you could have great first call resolution, hire all level 3 techs for your help desk, pay them a fortune, and every call coming in can get fixed the first time somebody calls in. You'll also be out of business in about 6 months. You can't afford that in the managed services model. So you need to learn when you're running an MSP, get the data, understand what moves the needle, what drives success in the model, but make sure you're really getting information on how to improve from good sources. There's a lot of voices out there in the community who are are in some cases well intended, but maybe not always giving a balanced amount of information on based on data on how to improve your organization. And so it's one of the things that you're really good at, and use our data and other data. And I think using it and understanding the data in totality is a key to really successfully improving.
Yeah, I think using that data, in an intentional way reminds me actually to bring up your quote of the week. You want to tell us about this quote?
Sure. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other one thing. From Abraham Lincoln. Um, I love this quote. I've seen this over and over and over again, whether it's in sports, whether it's in business, whether it was in law school, in all different areas of life. That the people that you think they've got it, they're made. Maybe they come from a family that's wealthy, or they have other natural advantages in life somehow, or maybe a more talented athlete than somebody else. I've seen time and again those who hang in there and outwork the next person over seem to always be more successful in the long haul. That there's story after story that Abe Lincoln was an ultimate story. That how many times did he lose other elections before he ended up as president of the United States? And that grit and the fortitude that he had was part of what helped him persevere during one of the worst times in the country's history. So it's been a reminder to me throughout my career that when times are tough, hang in there, keep going, keep working, put in the time, and things will somehow usually work out.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of that commitment to the multiple of wages multiplier, right? Driving that toward 2.7, 2.8. Like, I was just unwavering that is not negotiable. We have to achieve that multiple, because that's what produces the gross margin, which makes the cash available for the SG&A, which creates EBITDA. Like, everything really in my mind revolves around that. That's why I was so focused on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure Abe had that in mind, but I like it. I think that it ties in really well, Rex. But yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things that's key is when we're looking at profitability, I get asked a lot in different formats, and maybe it's a younger generation that's being brought up more holistically, or I don't know what, but it's something along the lines of, why do you guys always talk about profit, 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 profit? It's all we hear about from you guys. Well, because if you're more profitable as a company, not only are you going to take home more money as an owner and ultimately be able to sell your business for more, should you choose to do that, or when you choose to do that, but in the meantime, you're going to be able to invest in quality. You're going to be able to have a better workplace, invest in the tools that you need to invest in. You're going to be able to hire when you need to hire. And so you're going to deliver a better experience to your customers, and therefore they're going to refer more people to you, and you're going to grow faster. And all of these things tie together.
Totally agree. Hey, I'm kind of hogging some time here. I got one more thing I want to ask you about, and then I'll toss it over to Chris and Bessie. But the new interface in the benchmark, I've seen it.
Yes.
It's exciting. Can you give us a couple of minutes on how that rollout's going?
Yeah, if you haven't seen Service Leadership Index, our benchmarking platform lately, you haven't seen it. In the last quarter, for Q3, we rolled out an entirely new, completely rebuilt benchmarking platform, and it's all built on ASIO, Connectwise's ASIO platform. We went from multiple disparate apps, a lot of complexity to enter data, to a single web-based login. You can even upload an Excel file out of your accounting system to populate your data now within the system. You log on, there's a dashboard view of how you're doing. You can drill down into different views and see your data in a really granular way.
Wait, you mean we don't have to wait like 3 weeks? We don't have to wait like 3 weeks to see it?
It's real time, Rex. It's awesome. If you need to make a change to your data, you make that change, and everything updates real time. You see right in the platform how you're doing relative to best in class. And going forward, we're going to be adding some really neat enhancements to it. Because it was built on ASIO, the platform allows us to add a lot of feature sets to it going forward and integrate it with other Connectwise products. So stay tuned. The first product that you'll see will be later this year, a brand new budgeting pro forma tool that will be awesome. Our goal is to bring best-in-class budgeting practices to the rest of the managed service industry. It's been our observation that the large PE-backed folks are better at it than the most MSPs are. And so we're bringing a tool set to help try to drive that discipline throughout the managed service industry overall. It drives better profitability if you are better at budgeting.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And that's kind of why November is sort of finance month for Academy Live, right? We're talking about, hey, let's get our finances in order. Let's work on benchmarking and let's get ready for 2024. So I'm going to go ahead and toss the ball over to Finch, to Chris and Bessie to continue the interview with Peter. So I'll be back in a little while, Peter.
All right. Thanks, Rex.
Hey, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Bessie.
Wow.
How are you?
We are learning
Doing great.
so much. Well, we wanted to dive right in. We wanted to ask you a little bit about something about a salary survey that's coming up. Can you share a little bit about what that is and what you want people to know about it?
Oh, yeah. Great question. So last year's, we brought back Service Leadership's compensation report. It was a report that Service Leadership did up until 2015, 2016, using 2015 data. That was the last year of it. And last year, we were bombarded with requests for compensation data, whether it was, what are people seeing in raises? What are we seeing in raises? What should I be paying my level ones? What should I be paying my project managers? What does the market look like in the upper Midwest versus the West Coast, et cetera? I mean, there was, I don't think a week went by last year with wage inflation, all the issues that every TSP out there was dealing with, that we weren't getting hit up for request of data on that. And unfortunately, we didn't have it. The most recent data we had was from 2015. So we brought back the report last year, and it was a huge hit. It was 400 pages of data, about 100 pages of it was analysis. We were able to look at, because we do profitability benchmarking, we're the only company in the world that could do what we did for TSPs, and that was, we took profitability data and we correlated it to compensation, and we were able to not only show what people are paying in different regions and cities and parts of the world for over 50 different common positions for TSPs, MSPs, we are able to say, what are the best in class doing that's different than the bottom quartile? Who's paying more? Who's paying a higher percentage of variable compensation? And go through a lot of that. And then we had just table after table of by position. We were showing it based on years of experience and based on regions. We had the top 15 metros in the US. So anyway, it went great. We are bringing it, we've brought it back for this year. And so the windows to submit data has been open since the beginning of October. It'll be closing in a couple of weeks. It'll be closing November 30th. And if you submit your compensation data into the system, you'll get a free copy of the report, $1,800 value, and you'll get it first. So get your data in. You can go to service-leadership.com/comp survey, or just go to service-leadership.com. This year, we're adding a couple of different fields. We're collecting a little bit more data. The first one is benefit cost. We had a lot of requests for benefits. So what's everybody doing on that? So we'll collect some data on that. And then the hot topic that continues to be a hot topic is remote work model. So we'll be capturing in each position, is the position full-time work from home, full-time in the office, or hybrid 2 days a week or less, or hybrid 3 days a week or more. So, and we'll have that data when we publish it. In December, anybody who provides their data will get an email from us that will have next year's projected raises based on the benchmarking data. So we're going to rush to get that data run and get that out the door in time for budgeting. and then the rest of the report will come out later in Q1.
Wow.
Wow. I think one of my favorite words coming out of the last few years, and this thing that which should not be named, but unprecedented, is something that, and I think I have two questions. One is related to the salary survey and the results. When you were looking at this, I mean, this was an anomaly as far as the data, like the amount of changes, raises, amounts. Do you have any like key takeaways on what you really did discover as far as what were the characteristics of those in the bottom quartile and what were the characteristics of those in best in class?
X of that for staff positions and about 3x for manager positions of the bottom quartile. And one of the groups I presented that to, somebody raised his hand and said, well, yeah, Peter, no kidding. Best in class are making way more money. They can afford to pay a bunch more incentives. They can afford to, but the data showed they were actually paying the least. Their target annual earnings was actually the lowest for both staff and manager positions. The bottom quartile was paying the most. And the third thing was the bottom quartile gave the largest increases last year and was projecting to give the biggest increases in 2023. So in other words, the bottom quartile is paying the most. They had the least of it tied to performance, and they were giving out the biggest increases. So it's, I hope you enjoy the hole you're in. Here's another shovel for you. Keep digging. So best in class are they're using data better. They're making better decisions on it. And because they're tying so much more as a percentage to incentive, they're bringing in people who really want to perform, right? People who believe in what they're doing and their ability to perform are motivated by having a higher upside from incentive performance-based compensation. So there was a lot in there. We had a lot of information on best practices on how to do that, how to design compensation plans to achieve that. But the data on that was really amazing.
That's
Wow.
It does fascinate me. The second part of that question that I wanted to ask Peter was kind of, we were talking before the show and some came up about data, and there's been a lot of talk about the economy, what's coming up, what are the concerns, recession, not. Do you mind speaking to that and kind of what you see in some of your data and what some of your thoughts of, kind of forward thinking and projecting around economy?
Yeah, happy to. We just a week ago got our Q3 results, and so they're fresh off the press. Q3 was a good quarter. MSP profitability, top quartile was down slightly. Average profitability of the best in class in Q2 was about 24.5%. This quarter was 23.7% on average, but that's a good number overall. Bottom quartile has been the case for a while. Bottom quartile all lost money. The good news is they lost a little bit less money than they lost the quarter before, which is a little less than the quarter before that. However, our data, we do an annual industry profitability report every June, and that's about 300 pages of light reading. Rex looks forward to it every year. It's like Christmas for him when that comes out. But it's a great report, and it's really the industry Bible on profitability. And we go into multiple business models, and we hit some current trends that we find interesting. And what that report shows is that 2020, 2021, and 2022 were the 3 best years ever for the industry. The data that we're seeing so far this year gives me every reason to believe that 2023 will be just as good or right up there with those 3 years. So another way to look at that is we're in the best time ever for profitability for our industry. So the question I like to ask bottom quartile folks who are losing money, or maybe you're in the median and you're at 1 or 2 or 3% profitability. In other words, you're flying your plane right at treetop level. Is if you can't make money today, what are you waiting for, right? When are you going to start? When are you going to make the decisions you need to make to try to start driving success? If you can't do it now, when are you going to do it? Today's the day. Start today. Focus on those things that you need to fix today, because we don't know in 2-3 quarters what the economy is going to look like. And if you're flying your plane at treetop level and there's a downdraft in the economy, you're going into the trees. So focus today on picking up altitude and growing your profitability. It'll lead to all sorts of other good outcomes for you if you do. But North America, right now, our data is really solid. Revenue growth is great. Managed service growth is awesome. We are seeing really positive trends in North America. EMEA, Europe, folks, it looks like they either are in a recession or they're heading into one. Their story's not as positive. And APAC, Australia has been a little bit up and down. This quarter was not a great quarter in Australia, New Zealand. But we're not ready to call that one as a potential recession just yet. But the data out of Europe is a little tougher, and so those folks are focusing in on some urgent actions to really continue to address some of these things in their own business as they work through some of those economic challenges that are well publicized over in Europe, and hopefully it doesn't come to the U.S., but at some point it will, right? I mean, at some point all good things come to an end. So focus on building your profitability, and while things stay good, you'll enjoy things. I mean, it'll lead to a lot of good outcomes. And if they do go bad, you'll be in a great position to withstand it, and maybe even be opportunistic, and be able to take advantage of acquiring some companies that are struggling, or those kind of things that tend to happen in a recession.
And just so you mentioned this a bit, but before I have 2 questions also. But my first question is more around what do we, if you're looking ahead and you're seeing maybe there's going to be a recession, like what are the top things that you should focus on doing? And I'm glad North America, it sounds like America's, we're looking like we're pretty safe right now, but knowing in the future it could happen, what are your biggest recommendations that MSPs focus on?
Number one thing, and I'm not going to go to number 2, 3, 4 because I really want to hit the number one so hard. Focus on your profitability. Make sure you're building your business in a way that is delivering sustainable, repeated profitability, meaning you're doing the right things to fix your service delivery, your go-to-market, your managed service, your pricing. All of those different things feed into your profitability. But start peeling that apart and really looking at what do I need to do today to fix my profitability model. And unfortunately, for any MSPs watching this, there's no magic bullet for it. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of decisions that you're going to need to make. And each one of them is going to have an incremental improvement effect on your business. And a few months from now, you'll wake up and all of a sudden things will be starting to do a little bit better. And 6 months from now, they'll be way better. But start today. Focus on driving profitability results. It's more important than anything else in your business today.
I love that. Thank you so much. That's so helpful. I have another question for you around back to the survey data or just benchmarking in general. Does someone need to have Connectwise to access this material? Is that a requirement?
No, of course, everybody should. Would strongly encourage it. But no, we are technically agnostic. Our roadmap going forward is awesome over the next couple of years. What you'll see is that those who don't use Connectwise products, life's not going to get worse for them. They'll be able to continue to benchmark and use Sleek and enter data, etc. But those who do use Connectwise products will see greater integrations and automated data feeds and a lot of helpful hints on how to implement change within your Connectwise products, etc. So life will continue to get better for those who do, but we're perfectly good having somebody benchmark and use Sleek who doesn't use Connectwise.
Good to know. That's really important.
Okay. You remind me of that insurance commercial. We know a lot because we've seen a lot. I kind of want to go back to maybe a little bit of a humble brag. I putting you on the spot here, so I know it's a little bit of a curveball, which is something I love to try to do. Not in a bad way, very good intention here, but over the years, what you've seen done, what's something that you're the most proud of? What's something you've accomplished in your time in this industry that you can really look back and you say, yeah, I was a part of that?
Well, I think doing some turnarounds and saving those businesses and growing them was pretty cool. I'm not trying to diminish that, but whenever I think of the things that I'm most proud of in my career, and maybe this is the benefit of getting a little older and being able to look back with a different perspective, but no question about it, it's the impact on people. It's the employees as we grew that we were able to hire that I was able to see go from a level one to being a VP of service, and the sales rep
Mm,
who I promoted to a sales manager and helped to mentor who became my successor, Chris Kilgard, and just seeing so many folks in different positions. In my previous company, I was the fintech I was at. I took a chance on an employee that was pretty entry level position, and she ended up being president and CEO of that company a few years ago. And so
wow,
seeing
it's
seeing
awesome.
employees grow and develop and go on to be successful, um, that and in my role today, I meet in every quarter. I'm in front of in person with peer group communities, something like 250 to 300 MSPs and VARs every quarter, and listening to them and the impact that our coaching makes on them and the data and how that's led to success and them be able to do different things with their life and their families. And there's 100%, those two things are what drives me the most. That's what really I look back on with a lot of pride and what we've been able to achieve.
Thanks for sharing that.
I, I love that. And my last question, I want to make sure that we have, if there's anything you didn't have a chance to share, is there anything else that you would like to share with us today that we might not have gotten a chance to talk about?
One thing I would share is this stuff can be pretty intimidating. And we work with thousands of partners all over the world every quarter and for benchmarking. And if you're thinking about trying to figure out this stuff in your business, make a call, reach out, take a look at what it looks like, get some coaching help. It's not it might be intimidating at first blush, but it's not. I heard once somebody say, "Wow, getting set up on service leadership products is really complicated." I'm like, it's not that complicated. We have videos and we'll help. We'll jump on a call. um, Migrating internal systems is complicated, right? This is not that complicated, and once you get set up and get over the hump, it's every quarter it's a maintenance thing. The thing I would tell any partner is, again, focus on your profit model. It'll pay massive dividends for you that go beyond just the dollars and cents. But B, um, get help. Make a call, take a look at some of these tools, and I think people would be really surprised at how affordable they are and what Connectwise has done to discount the tools, and B, and make them accessible through different communities, including yours. And B,
Hmm.
um, get take a look. Just get going. Today's the day, right? Get started now. Don't be intimidated. Don't feel like there's any dumb questions or anything that I mean. We've heard everything, so there's nothing that you could bring to the table that would shock us at this point. So come on in, get help, and you'll appreciate it later.
I just have to say real quick, I really love that you said that, and I hope that that really kind of inspires and motivates people to take action, and move, because you've shared some of the impact that this data has and how big of a difference it can make for those businesses that are really leveraging and using that. And I love that your involvement, relationships with Rex and Academy and us is these communities, like you said, and the fact that we can leverage these tools together. And the fact that a lot of our coaching staff, our facilitators, peer groups have certified themselves in these tools to understand and help partners. I think we talk so much about insecurity, but I just think in business in general, the more we can help, there's so many people out there that we can help and impact, and this collaboration working is just really powerful. Peter, thank you so much for everything you shared. I really appreciate you being here. It was really, really valuable. Thanks for your
Well,
time
thanks for
today.
having me on. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
As we always like to do at the end, we like to kind of take some final thoughts. So we can bring Rex and Bessie back on, and we'll kind of see what those thoughts are. It's like a Halloween episode. I love that. Yeah. But,
This is my benchmarking book from 2007. I think I started getting these books in 2004, but I keep this thing handy because it reminds me of the journey I went on. And hopefully all of you are on that same journey, trying to understand your finances. So, Chris, do you have any final thoughts?
Just to start now. I love what he said about it being intimidating. You have to do something once before you can do it the 100th time, right? So don't let that intimidate. Don't let you keep you from getting into it, looking at the numbers, start making those improvements. It will be valuable. So just start. Bessie, your final thoughts?
I think just focus on profitability. That was the big red sign blaring at us. I think in today's episode, focus on profitability. And if you're not sure where to start with that, reach out to us at Academy. We can help you. So I want to thank everyone so much for watching. We are going to be taking a little fall break. So we will be dark for the next 2 weeks and we'll be back on December 5th. So we hope that you have a lovely Thanksgiving break coming up. We're just so thankful that we have this platform. Chris, Rex, and I are having so much fun on the show, and we appreciate all of our viewers tuning in to watch. So see you in December. Remember that we are live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and on demand always. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video. So thanks so much. Rex, want to close us out?
Actually, I'm just going to parrot Peter. What are you going to do today to get your finances in order and improve your business? Thanks, everyone.